Kimberly Seals-Allers. I'm the founder of the Irth App and executive director of Narrative Nation. So Narrative Nation is my technology and media nonprofit. We're the only Black women-led technology nonprofit, particularly focused on creating products and platforms that address racial disparities in maternal infant health. So our signature products are the Irth App, of course, and then the Birthright podcast, where I only share joyful Black birthing stories. So my birth story was really the catalyst for me to think about birthing change. When I was pregnant, I did a lot of research about where to go to have a great pregnancy, to have a great birth. I read all the lists. I'm a journalist by trade, so I was doing all the research and really trying to educate myself on where I could have an empowered and even joyful birth experience. And I went to a highly rated hospital in my city and walked out really feeling disrespected and traumatized. And I think I spent the early part of my mothering journey blaming myself, like, what did I do wrong? And then I began to realize that at the time of my life, I was not yet married. And I was in graduate school, so I was on student insurance, and I was treated like an unwed Black woman with basic insurance. I began to realize that people are just not being treated the same way, even at the same place. And everything that I read, I had to fight for. And so I was really inspired by my own story to create a place where we could see reviews from people like us, where a Black woman can go to see how another Black woman in her relationship status, perhaps in her income category or insurance type, experience a hospital as a better tool for how we can have the experience that we deserve. And so everything that I do really came from my own experience and really being activated to say that we deserve better. I know I deserve better, and I wanted to create that for others. My first child is my daughter, and I had this experience while having my daughter, and then I had my son. What I'm most proud of in my journey about Irth is that I created Irth with my son. It actually began as a mother-son project for us. My son has been a math and science and coding kid since I can't remember. And so I started Irth with him, saying, hey, I have this idea, maybe we can work on it together. And my son, Michael, literally helped me create the first wireframes for Irth. We took those to pitch competitions where he and I would practice together our 30-second pitch. And then we ended up winning at MIT. And that was really the first kind of way that I had a prototype. I literally created a solution with my second child. And so that gives me a lot of joy. I would say my village starts with my children. Being a mother is very important to me. And being in relationship with my children as they grow up has been one of my greatest joys of my life. And so I think it starts there. And obviously my family, my siblings. And then I love to think about the family that I've created, people who are going to hold me accountable. That's always important to have. The ones that will say the things that you don't want to hear. Those are some of the most important people to have in your village. And then I think there's an amazing community of birth workers and advocates and people in this space that have known me for, the 15 years that I've been in this. And I consider them to be a critical part of the village because they remind me who I work for and what I'm striving to do to create a better landscape for those who care about this issue and for the families that we serve. I would say the best advice that I give people is very similar to what I said to my daughter when I left her at Spelman. I said to her, I've given you everything that I have so you can be anything you want, right? Go be anything you want. And my advice to my children and to anyone out there is to go be anything you want. It's possible. You can be of service to your community, that you can do well and do good. And so those are the things I want people to know it's possible. What's giving me a lot of hope is really this new generation of Black children who are doing things that we never did. They don't even think about limits. I love it. The older ones have a new idea about work. They have a new way of centering their mental health in ways that we didn't have the language for, or we didn't feel we had the language for. They are speaking up. And so I think on my mothering journey, seeing what's happening for our children, right? That we want them to be free, and creating and raising children who are free and centering their liberation, that gives me a lot of hope. Because in that mentality and in that spirit, for me, that's how we get there. When I first came into this work and we looked around, I'm like, who can we pass it to, right? But I don't ask that anymore. The number of Black researchers, the number of Black tech founders, the ones that are doing breastfeeding research, maternal health research, epidemiology. Like, you can't name a space and we aren't there in numbers. And that gives me a lot of hope, because I know that the future of the movement is in good hands. I think the other thing that's given me hope, and this is very much connected to what we do, is the narrative shift and the systems change work, right? It's like we're changing the story of what Black birth looks like in this country, and we're doing that one story at a time. Every lesson about Black maternal health does not have to come from our death, demise, or despair. We can actually learn from when things go right. That is part of what I wanted to do with Birthright. And so that narrative shift to make sure that there's balance, that we're claiming joy as part of this story, is also giving me a lot of hope. And then I think the third thing is systems change. For me, it's holding systems accountable. Yes, we need more things for Black birthing people to empower themselves and to advocate themselves. But if we don't do the systems change work, we're arming people to go into a system that still doesn't listen to them. That is really where we'll get to the other side, as I see it. My message for the next generation of tech leaders is really about, one, being fearless, and two, thinking about Black maternal health with a new lens, right? I often say, if you have a mother, you came from a mother, then this issue is for you. And so when we make Black maternal health everybody's business, we all win. It's time for new narratives of hope that heal. It's time for us to be seen. It's time for our stories to be heard. Join us. Shine a light on Black birth stories of hope.